Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing good. So in today's video, I'm gonna be talking about my first posting examination for year 3. So I'm gonna be talking about how the O&G examination was conducted for year 3. Before I begin, mind you, I'm from Masa University and I'm in no way promoting the university. I'm just simply telling about my experience so far, how it was conducted. So different university more or less probably have the same style. In Malaysia, I'm not sure about other countries, so do comment down below how is it like conducted in your university or your country. So before I begin, those of you who are studying in Masa University and who will be going through this posting soon or sitting for the exam or maybe have undergone, my year may have been a little bit different since we were the first posting for that year. It was my posting for that academic year. Sorry, it was a bit messy at that time. There were no proper structure and it wasn't like the teacher's fault or anything, and it wasn't like the group leader's fault or any other teacher in particular. It's just that it was a little bit messy. If I'm not mistaken, now the current group who have undergone or who are currently undergoing this current posting, it's a bit different. For the group who has undergone, like after my group has gone through, or who is currently undergoing this posting, do leave a comment down below how is it like now, because I don't know, I heard it's much more stricter. Yeah, I don't know how is it very different or is it more or less the same. Okay, so let me know down in the comment sections below. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about all the exams. So I'm gonna be talking about MCQs, I'm gonna be talking about the auspice, long case and short case, and also the logbook and portfolio assessment. Let's go to the first one, which is MCQs. So I honestly can't remember. If I'm not mistaken, there were 20 MCQs. There were 20 questions. So for the if I'm not mistaken, there's 20 or 40. Okay, so for the MCQs, actually, how they were given, how were the questions, they were like, they'll give you a situation and then they will ask you, like, it's like a short case. Like they'll describe a short case. Say this particular patient has preeclampsia, and then while she was in the hospital, they measure her BP is high, but then suddenly she started having seizure. So what are you gonna do next? So below A, B, C, D, they're gonna explain like, okay, maybe you should turn the patient to the side or just flatten the bed and then administer her oxygen, like that. Like, what is the next procedure, what are you going to do next? And then for the other questions, they will give you a case and then they'll probably ask you like, okay, what is the probable diagnosis of this current patient? Like, I mean, like, what could she be having? And then they might not give you the diagnosis, but then they'll ask you like, what's the proper treatment, something like that. My current batch went through, it was more or less like they'll give you a situation and what to do next. So it was a bit hard for us. Actually, it wasn't a bit hard, it was a lot hard for us because the answer were very similar. And to be honest, like, if we were to ask a different doctor, they might give this answer, and if we were to ask another doctor, they might give that answer. But I'm not sure actually. I think most of us passed. I think so. So after that, we had our auspice. So for auspice, we didn't have it like in the lab or something. Usually it's in the lab, right? They'll give you the picture, it's in digital format, but for us it was printed on paper and they'll just ask you a few questions like, what is that, explain that, probable diagnosis, proper treatment, and so on. If I'm not mistaken, there were at least about 6 questions. This MCQ and OSPE will be done on the same day, and it is done over at the Bandar Sujana Putra campus. We had our OSPE and MCQs on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we had our long cases and short cases, and on Thursday and Friday we had our portfolio and logbook assessment. If I'm not mistaken, there was one day out of the week where we had a holiday. It was a public holiday, but I can't remember. For Tuesday and Wednesday, I got the Wednesday part. It's like this, per lecturer, there are at least about 7 students. The adjunct lecturers do actually come in to assess the students. Each of us, we have our own posting leaders, right? So they will work with the lecturer to choose the patient. So for this posting, I mean, not for other posting. We had a very good leader. She actually went to the hospital for us, and then she went and like scoured through the patient, asked them like, can you please be the patient for this particular student tomorrow? We're having these exams and so on. And most of them said yes, but the problem came the next day when in the morning she went and asked them. Most of them refused. Most of them didn't want to like be part of the examination, and some of them went into labor, some of them like that, like all sorts of problem came up. So she tried to find us another patient, but after that the patient refused. So I mean, like, she had to undergo the exam as well, but she's doing all this extra work and she's not even being paid. So in the end we had to find our own patient. So for me, I did mine on a Wednesday. Yeah, I did mine on a Wednesday. I went to this particular patient that she assigned to me because I personally didn't care whether I got obstetrics or gynecology. I was prepared for both. Personally, I would have preferred gynecology. I think it would have been like much more easier for me. So she asked me, do you want a patient who is in labor or who has given birth postpartum? And I said I didn't mind actually, and personally I didn't mind. At first she assigned me this patient and I went to her. I started to like get her history. I got her name, got her age. If I'm not mistaken, she's 19. And the thing is, like, when I started to ask about her history, there are many things she didn't know, and I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be hard, because she didn't went to the clinic to do her booking in time. She went late, and then she's not sure what's wrong with her baby. She doesn't even know why she's in the hospital. She doesn't even know whether her baby is good, and personally I don't think the doctor don't say. She probably just doesn't remember or understand what's really going on. And she's actually really young, like she's just 19. I was like, this is gonna be hard clerking her. So I said thank you, and I went to my friend, the leader, and I told her, I said, this patient is really hard. And she was like, okay, then you can go and find your own patient. So I went and looked for my own patient. I started going through the rooms, the wards, and I was like, could you please be my patient? Most of them, they rejected. They said they don't want. I was like, okay, finally I'm gonna go to the postpartum. And I went to another ward, and there was this lady. Her baby was beside her. She just gave birth, like, I think she gave birth around 4 a.m. or something. At that time when I was there, it was like around 8, almost 9 a.m. So I asked her, I said, actually I'm having exam today. Could you please be my patient? Because I've tried like asking many people, and most of them said no. So could you help me out? Are you busy now, or are you tired? And she just looked at me. She was like, yeah, no problem, I'll help you. I'll be your patient. She was so cooperative and so nice. So I used to clerk every day, almost every day. I would take a break on Friday and sometimes Thursday and Saturday, but from Sunday to Wednesday, I used to clerk every day. So I was like, I know what I want to ask and everything. So I started asking her, and then this nurse came and she was like, wait, I need to check her first. So I had to wait outside. Then they like checked her and so on. Then I was like, okay. Then when they opened the curtain, this nurse told me they're waiting for another nurse, because apparently they were student nurses. I was like, okay. So I was just sitting there waiting for the other nurse. I was like, oh my god, I only have 1 hour to clerk the patient. I only have 1 hour to ask her question and do physical examination. Please hurry. And after that they left, and then she told me, actually I have to go and change my pad, because she just gave birth and she had to, she would obviously be bleeding. I was like, okay. Then she went inside. Then she came out and she was like, I left it there. And she went inside, and I was just, even though it was like for a few minutes, I felt like it took so long. And then after that she came back. So I continued asking. Then as soon as I just finished the menstrual history, and then the doctor came and she was like, hi, I need to check her. And I was like, okay. okay. And then she started asking so many questions. Then she looked at me. She was like, the doctor asked me, "Are you clerking her? Can you find another patient?" I was like, "I'm sorry, but I'm actually having exam now, and I've tried asking many patients, so I really want to clerk this one." I said, "If you don't mind, could you please hurry up?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Then she started asking me some questions, and I was like, "Please don't ask me now. I'm already like, I was anxious." And then after that, so after that they left, I started asking her question. And then this pediatrician came and she was like, "Oh, how's your baby? Can I do the physical examination?" I was like, "Oh my god." And oh, obviously I had to remain calm and not show that I was anxious at that time. So I was like, And then after that, the doctor left, and then the nurse came. She was like, "Can I change? Do you want me to change your baby into another outfit?" I was like, "Oh my god." And then I think the patient just saw my face and she was like, "I'm sorry, we can do this later." She told the nurse. The nurse was like, "No, it'll only take a while." Okay, so my phone actually stopped videoing because I ran out of space. So where was I? The nurse. So the nurse was like, "No, it'll only take a while." And the patient just looked at me and I was like, but in my heart I was like, "No." And she was like, "You know what? We can do this later." She told the nurse, "We can do this later, after she is done." So she asked me, "How long more will it take?" And by that time when I look at my watch, I said, "I only have 20 minutes to finish." I said, "After that my teacher is gonna look for me and I have to present my case. So do you mind if we have uninterrupted like session for these 20 minutes, please?" And she was like, "Okay, sure." So I started to ask her everything and so on, anything that's relevant. And then after I did my physical examination, she was so nice and so cooperative. And by the time I was done, like I didn't write down my case properly. I just wrote in dashes and everything. I just made sure my introduction and summary was correct. Um, that's the only two parts that I wrote properly. The rest I was like, okay, I'm gonna call my teacher now. And then I saw my friend. She passed by and she was like, "Are you done?" And I was like, yeah, I'm done. You can call him now. Then when I went out of the room, I saw him walking towards me, my examiner. I was like, oh god. So I was examined by this particular lecturer. So he never actually teaches us. He teaches us like maybe once a week. He'll come by. He'll take one of the bedside sessions and that's it. He wasn't like our main lecturer for year 3. But he's really friendly. So he came in, he was like, "Hi, good morning, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good, good morning." So he brought me to my patient and then I started to present my case and then he just asked me to skip some parts. So I basically just presented my introduction. No, I started off with my summary because he asked me about a summary, and then I talked about introduction, HOPI, the past medical and past surgical, and that's it. The rest he told me to skip. Then I started to explain my physical examination finding, and then he just stopped me halfway and he asked me certain questions about her, and I started to answer. And then he asked me to perform the abdominal examination. Like he asked me for the fundal height, he asked me for the clinical fundal height. So yeah, it's very important to know these two. So I performed it in front of him and everything. Oh yeah, by the way, I mentioned postpartum, right? Yeah, because this patient gave birth like a few hours before I actually went and clerked her. So yeah, obviously there is still fundal height. So he asked me how many centimeters and if this person was pregnant, like what do you think, how many weeks is her gestation, so something like that. And I answered him, and then there was one question. I don't know why I couldn't answer that properly. I didn't study. He asked me like, "How do you know if she has DVT?" I was like, oh dear. I mean, it's in the leg, right? Just looked at him. I was like, I don't know. And he was like, "You could just squeeze her calf muscle and, she will scream in pain." And I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, he brought me to the room and he started like having discussion with me. Like he started asking me, okay, what's the definition of this and this? And then from there, what are the risk factors? What are the symptoms? And then what are the he asked me about postpartum hemorrhage. I only remembered primary. I forgot about secondary. And then he started telling me, and he started asking me like signs, symptoms, risk factors, how do you manage, and so on. So some of them I could answer, some of them I didn't answer. And throughout the whole session, he was just like having this poker face, and he sometimes had a disappointed look, and I immediately my confidence just started to fall, and I was like, oh boy, how bad did I do? But I just like remained calm, and I was like, it's okay. Then after that, when I was done, he just said, okay, done. And I was like, is it okay? And he was like, I was like, okay. And then I went out and I was like, yes, I'm done. Okay, so by the way, for year 3, starting from my batch, we only have long case. So long case is the full clerking, where you only take the history of the patient and also do a physical examination. So when I meant short case, I meant like at the spot where the particular examiner will ask us to do certain things, like perform a short physical examination in front of him of, let's say, the abdomen, or maybe some neurological examination, something like that. Like, oh, by the way, O&G, there's no neurological examination. I'm just saying because currently I'm in internal medicine, and I'm very, very bad at neurological examination when it comes to the cranial nerves. Anyway, that aside, comment down below, like, for those of you who actually went before my batch, like, what is the real short case actually? Because for me, that is a short case. After that, we had our logbook and our portfolio assessment. So that was done separately on another day. So for O&G, for every posting, we have to do 2 cases. So for O&G, since it's obstetrics and gynecology, we have to do 1 obstetrics and 1 gynecology on IUGR, intrauterine growth restriction with an oblique presentation. And my gynecology one was on pyrexia of unknown origin. So she was at that time 7 weeks. For O&G, we have 2 lecturers who are always there, like they will be coming every day. Half of the class was assigned to this particular lecture for obstetrics, and then the other half for gynecology. Then when they're done with this, then they switch like that. So for my obstetrics part, I had my logbook assessment then. So for logbook assessment, according to the criteria at the back, they said you will get an A if you have completed more than 80%. So yeah, more than 80% was filled. I obviously didn't finish everything. I had like maybe about 10 to 11 spots empty, not filled, because I couldn't get other cases. Like for O&G, it was kind of hard to find that particular case. I had like more than 80%, I think, so I guess I got an A for logbook. Anyway, so for portfolio assessment for obstetrics, it was like this, like they will call each student up, and then our case would have been with the lecturer already. And for obstetrics, this particular lecturer asked me like, okay, what's your case about? Just tell me, so and so on. And she asked me certain questions. So questions are relatively easy. Like for example, what do you mean by this? What are the risk factors, complications, so on? How do you manage this patient? And then after that, I'm done, and I switched to the other lecture, and then same thing again, like how I was asked in obstetrics, but of course for in relation to my case. Yeah, and then after that, we're done. So the following week, we actually have like an extra week for those who need to repeat the exam. For those who fail, they will have the repetition in that following week. But for us, it's like bonus empty week. But we had to come because of the attendance, and most of us didn't come. Some of us came, signed, laughed. Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, I think, I don't know, current batch, if you're watching this video, do leave a comment down below. How is it like now? Because I want to know, like, I heard lots of news, like ever since our batch left, a lot of things were changed. So it's probably more systematic now. I also heard that the lecturer now is rather strict, like really, really strict. So I would like to know. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, that is it. So guys, do give me a thumbs up. For those of you who are not subscribed, I know there are like 68% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel, so please subscribe, and do share this video to those you think may find useful. And yeah, I will see you next week, and that's it. Bye.